Hi there. Brilliant that you showed up today. It tells me that you are valuing your life, you're valuing your happiness, and you're valuing your relationships, and that's a wonderful thing. Today, I want to talk a little bit about something that comes up a lot, and that is people telling me that they do set boundaries, perhaps with their family, but what happens is that they then get a kind of a backlash. People don't like it when they speak up and say no and assert themselves. And they find themselves wondering, well, should I have even bothered with this? Because it feels like there's, all hell's broken loose. And they asked me about that. Maybe you've had a situation like that. Maybe you're watching this video because you're thinking, yes, that's me, and I want some help with that. First thing I'd like to say is, supposing you didn't set those boundaries, supposing you stayed as you were, supposing you just continued to be taken for granted, or not getting the respect that you wanted, that whatever the reason that you set those boundaries for, there was some reason in the first place that you said, enough now, I'm going to set some limits, I want to be treated better, I want my time back, I want my life back. I don't want to keep feeling trapped, being at everybody's beck and call, or feeling disempowered because everybody's putting me down, or I'm, the black sheep of the family, or, this sort of feeling of being like the scapegoat, or, any of those negative feelings where you feel that other people are not acknowledging you and valuing you. You've set boundaries around that for some reason. So the first question is, say, well, supposing I had never set those boundaries, what would happen? And of course, the chances are that would go on and on and on. And what happens then is that you feel isolated, you feel unhappy, you feel that you haven't got your own time, your own energy, chance to live your own life, your confidence, chance to do the things that you want to do in your life. Because you're either giving all your time and energy away to people in a practical way, or you're spending a lot of time and energy in your head trying to figure out what on earth is going wrong and walking on eggshells all the time. So that would just continue and get worse and worse and worse. So that's what would happen if you didn't set those boundaries. You've set the boundaries, people haven't liked it, there's been a kind of a backlash, and that's because quite often in families particularly, or in close groups of friends, everybody takes on a role. They're not always aware of it. It's going to be a subconscious thing. And if you watch my video on drama triangles, you'll I'll put a link to that here, but you'll recognize what I'm talking about, these roles, these patterns that groups of people can get into. And of course, if one person then changes and says, no, I'm setting a boundary here, well, that upsets the whole thing, doesn't it? The whole pattern. It's like a dance, people doing a dance together, and one person changes their steps, everybody falls over. So what do you do? Well, as I say, first thing is to say, well, I set the boundary for a reason. So I didn't want to carry on the way things were. But then to also recognize that when groups of people have a disruption like that, there will be feathers ruffled. You're never going to assert yourself to somebody who isn't treating you as well as you'd like to be treated, or you're never going to stop people pleasing. And then all of a sudden everything's fine and happy, and within 5 seconds, things are great. There's always going to be a bit of a disruption. People's feathers get ruffled. They don't, things aren't going the way that they're used to. Their brain is going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I don't like this. There are emotions of feeling offended or confused. So there's going to be some feathers being ruffled. The question is that for how long will this go on? It's a good idea to, first of all, accept and acknowledge that that will happen, so that you don't get drawn into being defensive. Just step back and allow the dust to settle, as that saying goes. It's a very helpful saying, to allow the dust to settle. Step back out of things. Don't get involved with people's backlash and defensive comments and things. Just, you've set your boundary, that's it. But think about the length of time. Sometimes people they take a bit of time to actually process things. They don't like what they've heard, or they don't understand what they've heard. They need to go off and figure it out in their head. They might need to have a little bit of a rant in their head or to each other. But they will then process that. They'll process their emotions. They'll process their indignation, their frustration. They'll calm. They'll start to see, when we calm our emotions, our brain can see things more clearly. We have what we call a cognitive shift. That means we see things in a more sensible, logical way because the emotions aren't getting in the way. So give them time to do that. Give them time to let their emotions, the dust settle, and think through things. It may be that some people will come back to you, they'll kind of feel a little bit more calm. Maybe they will have, I want to say, grown up a bit, not to put them down, but when we're not behaving well, sometimes we are in our own child self and we need to sort of come back into our adult self. So they may have come back into their adult self. You will have been in your adult self instead of your child self by setting this boundary and stepping back and staying calm. So that's a great thing for everybody concerned. But there may be other people who aren't really able to do that. They're just not there. It's just where they're at in life. They're not able to make that cognitive shift, to calm their emotions, to see things from a bigger perspective, to see things and acknowledge things from your perspective. You know, it's important that we're all able to say to each other, even if I don't agree with you, I can see that you have this experience and that you see things in this way. If we can all do that, that's a wonderful thing. Doesn't mean to say we have to see things in from somebody else's point of view, but just to acknowledge them. And it may be that there are some people in this situation who can't acknowledge you, can't acknowledge your boundaries, and maybe never will be able to. And there's a sadness there because there's a loss of that relationship. If it's a relationship where you might never see that person again, or it may be somebody kind of in the family that you kind of have to see sometimes, but you keep your distance from them. Point is that it's about you. It's not about these other people. It's about you learning and growing and evolving and finding courage to be you and to live life from the viewpoint of what works for you, what values work for you, and knowing your worth and asking other people to respect that. And that can only be a good thing. So if you've had this experience and you have set boundaries and you have found that there's a backlash, think about these points that I've made. Give it a little bit of time. Give people time to process what you've said. Give them time to think things through. Don't get engaged in sort of defending yourself. Step back from that. Remember why you set the boundary in the first place, and know that if you do lose some of these people in your life, you will have also lost their poor treatment of you. You will have found some space for you. And hopefully in time, sometimes it can take a while, but in time, some of those relationships will blossom and grow. These people will get closer to you than ever because you'll be having a more adult to adult relationship with them, a relationship based on mutual respect, mutual understanding, and real authenticity. You know, you're really being you. When you're really being you, that's when you have the best relationships with the best people. If you found this video useful, I'd love to know your thoughts on this and your experiences. So please do let me know in the comments. And also hit the thumbs up like button. It means that other people are more likely to see the video, and that means you're helping me to help them. Don't forget to subscribe, because that way you'll know when I have new videos coming out. And I love making these videos. Okay, it's great to connect with you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye for now.